Kala lamut labunda la home digital FM mi yalonko abale brikama sate kono bi nkontanta bake bayring ngalundam bale ko la sutiyote mi yalonko wala be banko kanjang mi yalonko wala mo US ambassador te anata kana futanna radio to jang. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you for the welcome. Thank you for the hospitality. Very, very glad to be here today. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, we would. So many people don't know who is the American ambassador.
Sure. My name is Richard Carl Pascal. I am a third actually, so I go by my middle name Carl to my grandfather and my father. So I go by Carl. But Carl Pascal. I arrived here in the Gambia on March the 14th, 2019. Mm-hmm. So been here for just a little bit over a year now, almost 2.5 years.
Almost two and a half years.
And a 3-day trip that we've taken up country to go visit voter registration sites, mm-hmm. And some other sites. In fact, was at the just yesterday. So it's always good to get out of Serakunda. Mm-hmm. Get up country to see, part of the beautiful countryside, Gambians out in their villages, see what life is like out in the villages, and especially to see the voter registration process.
Since you are out to see the voter registration process, what's your impression of the voter registration so far?
Well, we visited 8 different sites between Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We had also gone to other sites before that. I'll have to registration process. And I just want to give a lot of credit to young Gambians that we met. In fact, I've had several tell me they took their vacation time so that they could work for the IEC because they felt that the importance of the voter registration drive and their contribution to Gambian democracy mm-hmm. was worth taking their vacation time from their regular jobs to go out. These Gambians from all across the Gambia who are sent to different sites to work with the local alcalos in the villages mm-hmm. and local officials and the Gambian police to get people registered to vote. I've just been very impressed. They have a good process. It seems very clear. It seems very transparent. In talking to the different residents in the villages that we visited, the different registration sites, they seem very satisfied with the way the process is being handled. Mm-hmm. We've spoken with representatives of the different political parties that are at the registration sites, and they say that from their perspective, the process is very transparent and smooth. Anytime there have been any questions or issues, the IEC has addressed them. They don't dismiss them. They do address the concerns that arise. And so I think for putting together a good registration process. And of course, it's up to the Gambians. At a registration site, people are very enthusiastic. When they get that voter registration card, they're very excited. And people are intent. They want to be able to cast their vote in the elections coming up beginning in December. And there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm behind that.
Okay. And what is the contribution of your country, the United States, to this exercise so far?
Yeah, thank you. We have been doing a lot of public messaging on the importance of the registration process, and traveled up to Fototo and Basse and URR. We were talking with people, giving radio station interviews and things of that nature to encourage people to prepare, even that far in advance, and to look out for the opening of. So we've been doing a lot of messaging. We also support to the IEC planning and a lot of the IEC's own messaging around the elections process. So we've been supporting more in that way.
Okay.
And then also I should point out the United States, for most of those agencies, is the single largest budgetary contributor, including to the program, which is working extremely hard to support the government of the Gambia's electoral processes. I give a lot of.
Okay. And this participatory democracy.
Yes.
How important is it for the United States that every eligible Gambian get these voters card?
Well, we do think it's really important for any element to go and to register to vote. And I do think it's important that people understand that that is the opportunity to have a say in who gets elected to lead the country. And that's not just the presidential. In fact, arguably, perhaps more important are the local elections, and wanting your local representative for your constituency in the National Assembly is extremely important. National Assembly members, the direct representatives of the people, they are elected by the people, and they are the ones accountable for their constituencies. So I certainly know that I've met many members of the National Assembly that take their duties very responsibly. And I think many Gambians told me they've appreciated the fact that the National Assembly really questioned the government on many aspects of legislation that is budget. They've posed some very good, sound questions in representing the interest of their constituents. And I do think that that's absolutely vital. And it's up to the individual Gambian citizen to register site with the proper documentation to get registered to vote. To get a registration card is free. Doesn't cost a single us. You just have to have the right identity documents or an attestation from your alcalde. And so this is very important.
Okay. Do you have any concerns so far?
The only concern I have is that the end of registration process is the 11th of July, and I want to make sure that all Gambians who want to vote. So my concern is just one of time. I think we've seen an impressive number of Gambians coming out to register already, but there are quite a few who haven't yet made it. I know some people have told me they've simply been too busy with work and other obligations and plan to go later. But I do recommend that people go sooner rather than later. Get to the registration process.
And what will be the key priority for the U.S. government, through the U.S. embassy for the
clear, transparent electoral process, that the different parties that are involved, all of the political parties make a public statement that they will adhere to the code of conduct in order to make this a competitive process. This be a competition of ideas, that the different parties, the different candidates present to the Gambian people why they think they deserve the votes of the Gambian people as to what there is for the country, where they believe they can lead the country in the future. And obviously for us, getting Gambians themselves to weigh into this process, to become active in their own civic governance is really important for us. So we've done a lot of engagement, especially at the secondary school level, about civics and engagement and involvement in community service. Important.
Okay. And the U.S. has always been a big part of the rest of the world, including the Gambia, when it comes to democracy in general. When Trump and his supporters attempted to introduce repeat, does the U.S. legitimacy as a global custodian of
Thank you for the question, and thank you for the opportunity to answer that question. I think in point of fact, what the real question is, what happened? So what occurred that night is Congress and completed their duty, just as former Vice President Mike Pence has said. They upheld their duty under the Constitution to yeah, 50 states plus several territories where votes take place, and those votes are certified by those state legislatures, state board of elections, and the different ways that do that. And it's been very, very important, I think, to commitment to democratic principles. And that's exactly what happened that day.
Okay. In the past, also there was lack of electoral process, due to tendency. And we understand that U.S. money is going to happen here come December.
You mean assistance for the elections?
For the elections.
Well, we are contributing in that through provision of advice and expertise provision of
No,
messaging
I mean
to support.
observers, election observers.
Oh, observers, yes, yes. No, of course. Thank you. Just like we're out now.
Yes.
I didn't wear my voter registration observer card. I should have worn that in.
Yes, okay.
We'll have observer teams. We plan we're working through USAID, as you know, is based in Dakar, but they have something called the Sahel Regional Office, and the Dr. Zarek Smith heads it. And he was just here in the Gambia about a month and a half ago to present a survey with the Ministry of Health. But we are working with you. We expect to have a handful of U.S. government personnel as well as outside experts come in sometime in the late November timeframe to field our observer effort. And again, I have to credit the IEC getting our observer credentials for the voter registration process was very efficient. They responded very quickly. And the government of the Gambia has embraced the importance of having independent observers.
Okay, we agree that every eligible Gambian have the right to vote, but then unfortunately, Gambians in the diaspora would not vote this year. I'm concerned about that.
Well, I think it's a big challenge for a country the size of the Gambia. It's a small country. And the government is working to get a better handle on the debt situation in the country, to establish a mechanism by which diaspora Gambians can vote while staying outside the country. I have spoken to several different persons from other countries in other parts of Africa, working and resident outside of their home countries, but they are returned to their home country at the election time. And as long as they have a valid national identity card, ID card, or valid from their home country, they are allowed in their to go back into the airport and then 120 kilometers to her village to cast her ballot. I am concerned it's an important. I have heard as a priority also for government authorities. In the diaspora, and that would being, of course, it may be come cast their ballot. And I think that any Gambian who is able to be here, there should be a mechanism in place. And I do know that the priority of the government. I know that they're looking at effectively and a cost. The Gambian diaspora can have access to the polls. So know that it will be in time that the December 2020 election this will be priority in the coming year.
And finally, we advise to Gambians, in especially the head polls in December.
Well, first and foremost, I think this should be competition of ideas. It isn't a battle. It's not a competition of ideas. And them public asking and citizens cast their ballot in their to vote their representative, whether in the state house or whether in the National Assembly or local government. And I think it's important to ask questions respectfully. Gambians always had a lot of tough questions, including yours, respectfully, and explain why these votes that they accomplished or proposed that prove of that voters. So first, questions. Don't just somebody likes them or something like that. Really, to your own, but make it a competition. It's not a war. Competition of it's peaceful, be respectful. When concerns our authority takes their job extremely seriously. Read the reports of incident yesterday and the village, and again, IEC can help resolve that. Little ask for the IEC and all that. There are mechanisms peacefully and without the competition is all one Gambia. You may have many different regions, it's different actors, but one, and this is all games better future. Their rights, and also democratic principles that Gambians share, and looking at obviously the future economic agenda for prosperity to grow so the Gambians to build a nation right here.
Very much. Now a question out voter registration. You've been here for 2019. As far as it concerned, Mr. Ambassador, knows what your favorite Gambian is.
Okay, so first and foremost, I have to say this fantastic.
Yes.
I think it's because my grandma grew up on farms, groundnuts, peanuts. I love domoda. The spicy peanut. But there's not ambient I don't like. So domoda is super is who doesn't like it?
Yes.
Let's say and my Gambian.
More of this.
2000. I said, how'd the trip go? And I said it was good. He said, did you have? Oh, I had Chebaj. That's the same thing. I said, no. I said, it is on the smiling coast. Smile. Benetton, Accra. I love. I yet had a cake I did not think was really delicious. Especially everything made fresh.
Fresh.
Fresh vegetables. It's just really fantastic.
Okay.
So, but domoda.
A final phrase. Is no.
But do you say that?
No problem.
I know I've spoken told that, years ago, it was not. Now, the common greeting is salama. And this I've saw our very first diplomat. Served in Muslim. I like where you're wishing.
Yeah.
So I do like salam alaikum.
Thank you very much, Carl. We for you to visit Home Digital and visiting Home FM because everybody will be home. Thank you very much for coming.
I do appreciate the hospitality to be Digital FM. Great. Really appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you again. Again.
To on a one interview.
Happy to do that.
Yes, we'll do that as possible. Very much, Carl.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Following the announcement by the Independent Electoral Commission, the IEC, of the dates for the general voter registration scheduled from the 29th of May to 11th July 2021, the National Council for Civic Education, NCCE, reminds the public that voter registration is an integral part of the electoral process, as it is key to franchise as stated in Section 39 of the Constitution, and hence a civic right and a duty for all eligible Gambians. The NCCE therefore encourages every eligible citizen to fully participate in this crucial national exercise, as it is the basis for any credible and participatory election. The National Council for Civic Education informs the public that to register and acquire a voter's card in the upcoming general voter registration exercise, one has to prove your Gambian citizenship by producing one of the following documents as stated in Section 12 of the Elections Act: birth certificate, ID card, passport, or alcalo or district chief attestation. As the Gambia prepares for this very important national exercise, the National Council for Civic Education reminds the public to stay away from any altercation and refrain from the use of abusive language, provocative actions, intimidations, thugs, and physical confrontation at all times, as these contravene the laws of the Gambia. The public is encouraged to follow due process to seek redress when the need arises during the period to ensure that peace and stability prevail throughout the process. Voters card is your key to franchise. Register to vote and vote wisely. This message is brought to you by the National Council for Civic Education, NCCE, with support from the United Nations Development Programme.
dunia